So staying on the theme of COVID-19, we're going to hear from Noemi Altman next, who's a senior research associate at also at Consumer Reports. She's going to talk about COVID-19 and the explosion of fintech. Noemi, I think you're still muted.
Thank you. Sorry. So was there an explosion of fintech coincident with COVID-19? There certainly were predictions. So I'm going to take a little look at that, in particular with two specific categories of fintech products, with neobanks, also called digital banks, online banks, challenger banks, so many names, and with e-brokerages, such as Robinhood or E-Trade. As Debbie shared at the beginning of the presentation, in introducing this monthly survey that Consumer Reports does, we always ask questions about multiple topics in addition to the COVID questions that we trend. So here's a little peek at last month's fintech section. So I am going to argue that we're seeing solid gains among Americans for digital banks and digital brokerages during the pandemic. On the left is our heard of question. Have you heard of these things? And 55% of people have heard of digital banks. I think that's pretty large. On the right, we have adoption numbers. So, and I think both of these numbers are very interesting, each in their own way. 11% of people started using a digital bank during the pandemic. This is interesting to me because we had asked about digital banking before in August of 2020. That was a bit of a while ago. And at that time, 12% of people said that they were using a digital bank. And now 11% of people are saying that they have adopted a digital bank during the pandemic. So I think that shows an increase. And then 7% of people said they started using a digital brokerage or investing with an online brokerage. That's significant to me because 10% of people had heard of digital brokerages and 7% have adopted. So most of the people who have heard of digital brokerages have started using them. So who are the people who started using digital banks during COVID? As a reminder, the top line is that 11% of Americans had started using a digital bank. And the headline here is that we have the lowest income group exceeded that national number with 15% starting to use, 16% of the never married group, and 13% of the 18 to 44-year-olds. So they are young, never married, and lower income. So are these people just starting out in life and savvily taking advantage of something like that is convenient and can, possibly help them as they get their feet under them? Or are these groups that, are these people for whom consumer protection advocacy might be warranted? That is something that Consumer Reports will be looking into. Next, we asked people, what was their main reason for opening a digital bank account during the pandemic? And overwhelmingly, it was because of convenience, either for COVID or COVID-related reasons or reasons unrelated to COVID. That was the major reason that people checked off. The third reason here on this chart, accessibility, was worded something like, it was easier for me to open a digital bank account than it was to open one at a traditional bank. And so that has to do with minimum balances. Of the people who had not opened a digital bank account, we asked them, would you consider opening a digital bank account? And 25% of people said yes. I was pretty impressed with that. 5% of people said they already had a digital bank account from before the pandemic, and quite a large number said yes. 70% of people said no, they wouldn't consider it. So we asked those people, why not? Why would you not consider opening a digital bank account? The biggest reason that people gave is what I call the if it ain't broke reason. People are just happy with their banks. The traditional system is serving many people well enough from their perspective. So this is a summary of the reasons that people gave. A lot of the other reasons got quite a bit of response as well. People preferring to talk with a person is more common in the older age group than in the younger. Security and privacy concerns and other things. So let's take a shift and take a little peek at digital brokerage accounts. These made, obviously a lot of news during the pandemic. One of the fun things to read in the news when all of the news was so bad. So what we found is that, to remind you from the first slide, 7% of Americans had begun using an online brokerage during the pandemic. That went up to 10% among men compared to only 4% among women. 10% in urban areas compared to 5 and 4% in suburban and rural areas, and 9% in the younger age group than in the older. So this paints a picture of pretty much what most of us would expect to see in these numbers represented in nationally representative quantitative data. And the main reasons people gave for opening a digital brokerage account. The biggest one was that it makes investing easy. People really like that. People also said that they like that it lets them invest with smaller amounts. So that is an accessibility issue as well, tracking with what we saw for the online banks. And third, letting people invest in cryptocurrency. So that's interesting. I would be curious to see numbers about how many people are investing in cryptocurrency through such apps. So these are the numbers that we found, and that is what we have so far.
Great, thank you, Noemi.